Coming up next on Eyewitness News at 5, in order to move out, some people who have called it home under the West Side Highway now find they need a new place to live. We'll tell you why. Also, was it a police foul-up? A man now charged in a kidnapping was allowed to go free for weeks. We'll have the story.
Also ahead, comrades in arms. Soviet transit cops take a few lessons from their American counterparts, all in the New York transit system. Plus, a bright idea to cure insomnia. More light may be what you need. Dr. Jay Adlersberg has details.
All this coming up right now on Eyewitness News.
The fun spins round and round on Wheel of Fortune tonight at 7:30.
This is Channel 7 Eyewitness News with Greg Hurst, Roz Abrams, Sam Champion with the exclusive AccuWeather forecast, and the Eyewitness News team. Now, Eyewitness News.
Good afternoon, I'm Greg Hurst.
And I'm Diana Williams, in for Roz Abrams. Here's a look at what's happening. A last-minute reprieve for a group of homeless people on the west side late this afternoon. The state was prepared to go in and make a homeless sweep under a bridge along the West Side Highway. But a last-minute negotiation spared the 24 people who lived there for another 24 hours. Jim Dolan is live from Riverside Park at 72nd Street with the story. Jim?
Diana, I'm inside Manuel Martinez's makeshift home here beneath the West Side Highway. He's got a bed and a nightstand and a working television set. This is his, not ours. And it is typical of many of the homes you see here beneath the West Side Highway, all built and maintained by the homeless folks who live down here. But because of construction on the bridge above and the subsequent danger to the folks who live below, the homeless people are being kicked out. And today, the state DOT told these folks they had to leave immediately or lose all of their possessions. Under the bridge, they have created a place as close to home as you can imagine under the circumstances, under the highway. There are beds here and televisions, some nice televisions, and a working VCR. And today, they were told they would lose it all.
This is the only place I got to live now until I find me an affordable house. It's not why I want to live, it's just the circumstances of what it is now. And nobody wants to live in no park or no street. If they can get these Mary Dinkins and open all these damn abandoned buildings, give us the building. We can fix up the buildings our damn self.
And not all the people who live near the bridge are happy the homeless people are being moved. Lisa Mercer says that thanks to them, she escaped a mugger one night.
One time I was running and I was coming out of the tunnel and somebody grabbed me. And all of a sudden I heard some people over there screaming, "Hey, you leave the girl alone." And the guy just got scared and ran away.
Just as it seemed today that the homeless people would have to leave immediately, some advocates arrived and began to negotiate for some extra time. Borough President Ruth Messenger was among them, bargaining for time and to make sure the residents of the bridge could keep their belongings after they were kicked out.
But I want him to commit to me that they're not going to be taken to a dumpster. And even if people want kept, we'll go on the truck at 5 o'clock. The truck needs to be here. We need HRA to have people here.
And before the day was done, the homeless residents were given another day to pack up. And a deal was struck that would
protect their belongings, something that they feel very strongly about, and that will bring as many social service resources as exist, which is never going to be enough right now in this city, but we'll bring them here tomorrow to help each of these individuals figure out where he or she is going to go.
Now, this move was not a total surprise to the folks who live down here, but they had been told they had until Monday. And even now, with today's deal, they only have until tomorrow at 5 o'clock. And the deal struck today hardly solves all of their problem. There are 2 pregnant women who live down here and several folks who have part-time jobs who live down here who just can't afford housing. And they feel that isolated as they are, they're at least 100, 150 yards from any homes. As isolated as they are, they should be left alone. As one person told me today, if we can't live here, where in New York can we? Reporting live from the West Side, Jim Dolan, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
There is another incredible story about what looks like a serious foul-up by police in a case of kidnapping and sexual abuse of a child. Shortly after a little boy was kidnapped last month, police picked up a suspect, and they say the little boy was with him. But the suspect was set free. He's now back in custody. Celeste Ford has the story.
Police say 37-year-old Clifton Matthews kidnapped an 8-year-old boy from Upper Manhattan, sodomized the youngster, and then photographed him in the nude. It happened 3 weeks ago and ended 24 hours later when police received a tip leading them to a Staten Island house where Matthews allegedly took the boy. The child didn't tell police of his ordeal, so they went ahead and released Matthews. Just Wednesday, he was finally arrested. And today, police tried to explain their apparent mishandling of the case.
They had a confirmed, corroborated story, no indication of a crime. It seemed plausible. There was no indication of any foul play. They would have done the same thing and let him go.
And that attitude apparently didn't change until 4 days later. During a follow-up interview, police finally learned the youngster had been sexually molested. Today, his mother told me Matthews lured her son into the park and then abducted him. The next night, Matthews' sister returned to her Staten Island home, recognized the youngster from news reports, and called police. Although the child was examined at St. Luke's Hospital, police never followed up on the results. And worst of all, the mother says she didn't find out the details until reading about them in the newspaper yesterday. Her son is still too humiliated to talk about it, and police failed to tell her.
We don't have any set policies that we do everything the same in every case. Every case is handled on an individual basis. The fact that she wasn't told immediately, I really don't have the answer to. That I would have to look for you.
The chief of detectives admitted his people don't always do 100% of what others want them to. But he concluded saying it's easy to play Monday morning quarterback, and the bottom line is they got their man. There will be no further investigation, no reprimand. In Lower Manhattan, Celeste Ford, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Charges of abuse are also pending against a Long Island man. Pierre Gentil is charged with raping 2 little girls, ages 4 and 7. Police say Gentil knew the family of the victims. He was left alone with the girls in their Westbury home last month. He was arraigned today on charges of first-degree rape. And another kind of abuse is suspected in the death of a 16-month-old Staten Island girl. The toddler had a fractured skull and leg, and doctors say she suffered from battered child syndrome. The toddler's mother is being questioned by police. In the meantime, the other 4 children living in the same apartment have been taken to a shelter.
A church and its parishioners are discovering the walls of the sanctuary do not provide shelter from crime. St. Francis of Assisi Church was robbed early this morning of more than $70,000. The robbery comes during the Feast of St. Anthony, an occasion that brings the church a lot of donations. One of the priests was held up at gunpoint and forced to open the safe. Coming up on Eyewitness News at 6, we'll tell you why the timing of this robbery is so significant. And a robbery at a Camden, New Jersey church proves that nothing is sacred. A gold cross and a ring were stolen from the body of a bishop as he lay in state. David Murphy from our sister station, WPVI in Philadelphia, has more on a robbery that's also a desecration.
The church calls it a sacred piece of history, and it's now back in the right hands. But how it disappeared in the first place still has Camden Catholics in disbelief.
No, I won't believe that. It was, it was a shock to me. I say somebody has to be really sick to do that. Really, it really touched me in my heart like that.
Police say the cross and a ring were taken from the body of Bishop George Guilfoyle early yesterday as his body was lying in state inside the rectory of the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception. Police say this homeless man and a 13-year-old boy broke into the rectory early Thursday morning and stole the jewelry after spotting it at the viewing. Cathedral pastor Bishop James Shadd says the loss of the cross was especially hard. A secret compartment in the back, like this one, contains a splinter of wood believed to have come from the cross on which Jesus Christ died. That splinter and a stone are still missing from the cross. The 2 suspects are among those who eat in the cathedral's soup kitchen. Bishop Shadd knows the 13-year-old boy.
A child that certainly seemed to never have had much love. He seemed to be mad at the world.
Police claim lucky breaks led them to the 2 suspects, whom they claim were trying to sell the jewelry to local pawn dealers. Officials here at the church hope that luck holds out as police continue to try and search for a small piece of wood with enormous religious significance. In Camden, New Jersey, David Murphy, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
The bishop's body is being guarded by police until tomorrow's funeral services.
Another sacred symbol to many, the American flag. Today is Flag Day, and the day that we set aside to honor the symbol of freedom in this country. Andy Field has more on how the nation's capital remembered this day.
Diana, 15 years ago, New York City hung the world's largest flag from the Verrazano Narrows Bridge. The wind tore it to shreds. They have stitched a bigger and better flag together and laid it flat this time. The nation's biggest patriotic symbol is here in Washington, still surrounded by controversy. 7 tons of flag devoured 2 acres by the Washington Monument. It is big enough to wrap 2 space shuttles. It's the biggest anywhere. The United States has a lock on patriotic pride lately. The Gulf War sent flag sales soaring, and Congress hopped aboard for the ride.
I think this sense of pride and this sense of optimism about the future and the patriotism that's wrapped up in all of it really is an important step forward for our nation as we address a lot of these problems that lie ahead of us.
What are you doing? Washing the flag.
A number of Americans think their flag needs a good rinse to erase the stains of war, racism, and violence in this country. They held their own Flag Day celebration. They say they love the flag. They're just unhappy about government shenanigans done in the name of Old Glory.
Yankee Doodle, watch the flag. The stains are horrible on our flag. Look at Sununu. Fly free or die.
Well, I got a son over there. He's ready to die for that flag. If you don't like this country, get the hell out. I'll buy you a ticket.
Last Flag Day inflamed the nation, with the Supreme Court saying the Constitution doesn't say anything about fireproofing a flag.
Joshua, how many stripes?
Workers in Indiana stitched this 2-acre flag together, but the United States no longer has a monopoly on its own flag. The stars and stripes they handed to tourists today weren't even made in America.
Yeah, it's made in Hong Kong. They can't even make their own flags in America.
Well, at least the national pride is born in the USA.
Well, it means having the life I've always had in a free country and able to raise my children in a free country. And we have lots of pride and love for it.
By the way, they actually thought about hanging the world's largest flag by using the Washington Monument as a flagpole, but since it weighs 7 tons, the Park Service worried the flag might knock the monument over. You can salute it at ground level instead. We're live in Washington. I'm Andy Field for Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Freedom of expression, that's one of the rights we enjoy in this country. And today in Switzerland, a demonstration of their freedoms. Thousands of women took to the streets on strike and demanding equal rights with men. We'll have the story.
And a different form of diplomacy as New York and Soviet transit cops shuttle around on subways and trains. Comrade cops learning from each other next.
Tonight, isolated from the world, trapped by their own minds, veterans living underground, unable to give up Vietnam.
Most of us disappeared into the woodwork. They never want to come out.
Plus, their house costs half what it would cost in the city, but they're paying for it stuck in traffic. 2020 asked, is this a life? Watch Hugh Downs and Barbara Walters, an all-new 2020.
Followed by Eyewitness News here on Channel 7.
Switzerland is known for its precision watches, but today the country was a little out of sync. Thousands of Swiss women went on strike to demand greater equality with men. Many offices were empty and closed for the day as women stayed away from work to mark the 10th anniversary of Switzerland's equal rights laws. They took to the streets to protest marches, calling attention to a recent government study showing women's salaries averaging 30% below the pay of Swiss men. President Bush says the Soviet economy won't receive what he calls a megabuck package unless there are more democratic reforms. The president aboard Air Force One on his way to a speech in California had praise for the Soviet elections this week, and he says he's still hoping for a summertime summit in Moscow, but that depends on an agreement with the Soviets limiting long-range nuclear weapons.
Well, one area of agreement between Americans and Soviets did come to light today. Moscow transit police visiting their counterparts here in New York say the problems on the rails are the same in the Soviet Union as they are here. They spent some time on Metro North today, and Rolanda Watts caught up with them at the end of the line.
It's certainly not every day you hear Russian spoken behind the scenes of our city's transit system, but today was no ordinary day, not for 8 top-ranking police officials from the Soviet Union. Soviet transit cops on the Oasis Exchange program with New York City Transit and Metro North officers. Colonel Alexander Veldiev, chief of the Moscow Transit Police, was among those playing tourist today.
Was very impressed with the equipment, the computers, and so forth.
It was as if some kind of law enforcement bonding was going on out here at the Harmon train yard. The Soviet and American cops showing off and exchanging souvenir badges and pins. There were home movies, Soviet style, and lots of handshakes. They then boarded a train to Yonkers.
They find that there's so much in common, so much more in common than divides us.
These Soviet police officers are doing a lot more than riding trains and touring yards. They're also going out on transit arrests and following officers as they do crime sweeps all throughout the subway system. And then at the end of the day, each officer goes home with a Metro North or transit cop to spend time and see a little bit of American family life.
Bank card and getting money from the machine was like magic. They thought that was the greatest. Almost passed out. That was the best.
Lisa Thomas is one of 13 female Metro North cops. She was an exchange officer to the Soviet Union just last fall.
One of the first questions they asked me was, did I carry a gun like the men do? And I said, yes, I do shoot a gun and I have a nightstick, and they were very, very surprised to hear that.
Colonel Valdiev has another big day tomorrow where he's going to enjoy another American experience. For the first time, the Colonel's going to McDonald's. In Yonkers, I'm Rolanda Watts, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
The Soviet officers will return the hospitality this fall when a group of New York Transit police visits the Soviet Union.
From trains to planes, or the shuttle to be more exact, from the morning sun high above the desert, Columbia came gliding out of the sky. Its journey is over.
And rivers of lava come pouring down the Philippine volcano with its strongest explosion yet. We'll have that story, plus a show that is out of this world. An unusual display in the sky this weekend, a rare alignment of the planets. Next on Eyewitness News.
Man's best friend may soon be a subway rider's best friend, too. We'll tell you why the transit police are looking for a few good dogs and how they plan to use them to make your subway ride safer. At 6 on Eyewitness News, right here on Channel 7.
Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines is exploding again, this time with the most powerful force since it began erupting earlier this week. Pinatubo erupted 5 times today, spewing ash over a wide area. And while thousands of refugees are coming down from mountain homes to safer areas, the country faces a new threat. A strong typhoon is on its way with heavy rains that could lead to landslides down the slopes of Mount Pinatubo. Well, there was nothing standing in the way of a perfect landing for the Space Shuttle Columbia this morning. The shuttle and its 7 astronauts are home again after 9 days in space. It was a nearly flawless medical research mission, with the crew conducting experiments on the effects of weightlessness on themselves and on laboratory animals.
We'll stop on the Columbia, Houston.
Roger that, Columbia. Welcome back. It looked great, Brian, and congratulations on a super flight.
NASA says Columbia's mission will go a long way toward preparing astronauts for long stays in space.
The astronauts had the best view of the stars and the planets, but tomorrow we're all in for a heavenly light show. Get ready for the celestial alignment of 3 planets in a triangular formation that happens only once in a blue moon. Stargazers who like to come here to the Hayden Planetarium for a view of space will certainly be in heaven tomorrow night when they scan the skies for a rare triangular alignment of some planets. The galaxy's 2 brightest planets, Venus and Jupiter, are closing in on Mars to ultimately form a triad of celestial brilliance.
It's something pretty that I think we should take a few moments out of our busy lives to just look up and notice. I'd put it in the same category as a rainbow. There's not a lot of science there, but it's something that's just pretty and worth noticing.
For most of us, space is a great mystery. We only know what we read or what we can see from afar. I can tell you that this is only the 5th time this century that these planets have come together in this particular formation. And this is only the first time since December 23rd, 1769, that these planets have been this closely aligned in this triangular formation. As you can tell, this phenomenon doesn't happen very often, and astronomers say it'll be quite some time before it happens again.
I think the average shepherd 2,000 years ago is far more familiar with the sky than we are today, because our technology and our lifestyles keep us inside a lot, watching television or going to the movies or whatever. It's nice to just notice what nature has to offer once in a while.
To give you some idea just how fascinating this is to see with the naked eye, keep in mind that Jupiter, the solar system's largest planet, is 555 million miles from Earth. Mars is a little over 200 million away, and Venus, 64 million. But tomorrow, even at that distance, they should be in plain view. Weather permitting, astronomers say all you have to do is look low in the west at around 9:15 or 9:30 at night. Find the crescent moon, and the planet should be aligned just to the right and maybe a little above it. If you're trying to identify the planets, Venus will be the brightest, Jupiter the farthest south, and Mars, of course, is the other one. And the planet alignment is only the beginning of the summer solar show for stargazers. One of the biggest celestial events happens next month, July 11, when a solar eclipse will put a good portion of the west coast, Hawaii, and Mexico in darkness right in the middle of the day.
You make a good point in your story. Weather permitting, we'll get to see all this.
Oh, yeah. Sam Champion's going to be along in a minute with the exclusive AccuWeather forecast. Stay tuned.
A funky furniture fair, a cop with a peace mission, a politician with a passion for soaps, and rap behind bars. Saturday at 7:30, New York Views.
The question we were left with, are we going to be able to see this planetary alignment this weekend?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we will. As Greg was talking about, if the skies are clear, and the skies look pretty good for it tonight. Even in the city where a lot of us who live here can't get out and see all the stuff that's going on in the skies because of the light pollution you've got. And when you live out in the suburbs, you can see it a lot easier. But this is a pretty bright setup. Yeah, it should show up well, except for, you were saying Mars, I think, which is a little less bright than Jupiter. So you should be able to see it. Western sky, what? Just look up in the west, Greg?
Yeah, just to the right of the moon. Okay. Crescent moon.
Crescent moon
that's a pretty good barometer.
Let's take a look at what we've got outside right now. 81 degrees, relative humidity dry at 29%. Another beautiful day today. The barometer's falling off slightly. Winds are from the southeast at 8 miles per hour. Your high number today, well, we got up there, 81 degrees. We're going for 82, but what's a degree between, friends? 57 degrees is the way we started early this morning. That puts you well above the normal mark, well below the normal mark, looking about 2 below normally. We would expect 80 for the high, which is right in the ballpark, but a little bit cooler on the low end at 62 degrees. Let's check the satellite picture and see what's going out there. We'll put in a loop over the last 20 hours, and you'll find generally some clouds sitting just a little bit up to the north of us now. Not a big problem. They're just spinning a little bit off the shoreline. Looking at a nice clear patch, though. High pressure is doing its job, setting up a nice wedge of clear air here, keeping most of the clouds and thunderstorms that are popping today well to the south of us. They've been brewing all across Georgia. Waycross, Georgia came in with about 1.25 inches rain in less than 20 minutes. In other cases around Georgia, about 3 inches of rain for a good part of the day. So plenty of it going on down south, kind of holding itself into Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. The clearer skies are still holding for us, and we expect that will do that for most of the weekend. All of this mess that's holding off to the west, part of a frontal system that really extends off Texas and works all the way back up through the Rockies as well. You can see the thunderstorms that were popping through Colorado and they're working all the way up into the Dakotas. Those were some more of the stronger storms on the map today, but those should stay fairly well to the west of us. We're looking at the high pressure to take us through tomorrow anyway, with good-looking skies, plenty of sunshine, clear skies tonight. You'll start the day with mostly clear skies tomorrow. By the end of the day, we'll build up a little bit more humidity as the high drops out of the air. So remember that you'll find some more clouds by afternoon hours. Sunday looks to be very steamy. You'll start the weekend, so very comfortable, and end it very steamy, and then the kind of accumulation of clouds in between. AccuWeather forecast tonight, mostly clear skies, a comfortable night, 64 degrees. AccuWeather forecast for tomorrow, sunshine and some scattered clouds. It starts getting more humid tomorrow, but still not too bad at 88 degrees. AccuWeather forecast tomorrow night, warm and humid at 70 degrees. Tomorrow night, it's very humid. Sunday, it is extremely humid, and I think we'll find some thunderstorms waiting for us, but we'll talk more about that later on.
And after all, it is the weekend.
The weekend.
Thank you, Sam.